Okay, so I think we've got most of us here. Hopefully everyone can hear me. So good morning and welcome to another LACS training session. Today I'm joined by Carrie Gilbertson, who will be talking about the use of the GDPR functionality within the claim system and how we manage that data within the LACS tool. Before we do that, I've just got a couple of slides just to give you a bit of background information about GDPR. This is I guess, a rehash of a session we did earlier in the year, but we had quite a lot of interest in that at the time, and people have asked us since, can we go through some of these concepts again, hence why we're doing it this morning. There have also been some, or are going to be some changes to the GDPR regulation. So yeah, I thought I'd mention some of those bits as well in case you weren't aware of them. We are recording this, so you can refer to it. We're also going to, I think, also share the slides. The notes will be, so yeah, you can have access to that as well. So essentially, the GDPR is about protecting people's data. All organisations, public sector, commercial, need to ensure that this data is protected and correctly used. It's part of the Data Protection Act of 2018, and it's applicable, as I said, to all organisations, and insurance teams in local authorities are no different, or housing associations, or whatever it might be. One of the major concepts is that data can only be used for specific and explicit purposes, and you have to tell people that you're using it for that particular purpose. It can't be kept for longer than is necessary, hence why you need to discuss and understand what your retention criteria will be within your own organisation or within your own department. And there is sensitive information about race, ethnicity, trade union membership, genetics, health, the use of biometrics, etc., that are also very sensitive, like I said, and they have a stronger legal protection. So those areas need to be managed very carefully. You also have some rights under the Data Protection Act, and those rights mean that you have access to your personal data if requested, and you can ask people to give you that data. You can ask them to stop using it. It does differ a little bit from European GDPR in so much as consent in the UK is over 13, whereas in Europe it's 16. And if you're an organisation that operates both in the UK and Europe, you need to ensure that you're compliant with both. In Europe, the overseeing body is the EDPB, which I have a note, I've never remembered what it stands for, the European Data Protection Board. And in the UK, it's the Information Commissioner's Office. And those organisations have the ability to impose fines and identify those who are doing things badly and reprimand them and publish that information. So you need to be very aware of this, and this needs to be on your risk register, because there are, as I said, issues if you get identified by these organisations. So there are penalties, like I said, and reprimands. One of the biggest was back in 2021, which was the Cabinet Office got fined about £500,000. Tavistock and Portman NHS Trust had theirs reduced on appeal from 750,000 to 80,000. And there are a few organisations listed there where they weren't fined, but they were publicly reprimanded, which obviously impacts upon their reputation. So again, it's a reputational risk that you need to manage. I think the biggest fine was from BA. We're fined about 20 million. And back in 2023, TikTok were fined 17 million. So yeah, these can be pretty hefty fines, which none of us or none of you would want. There have been some changes, like I mentioned. There's going to be a new bill, which is currently going through the House of Lords at the moment, which is the Data Protection and Digital Information Bill. One of the key elements on this is that no longer is it necessary just to have a data protection officer. You also now need an SRI, which is basically a senior management individual. So someone on the management team, management board, needs to have oversight and responsibility for the management and the use of data within your organisation. So that SRI needs to be appointed or identified. Subject access requests, so SARs. There was a rule whereby you could basically refuse to provide data if it was if you felt it was an excessive or vexatious subject request. Now you can't just say no, you have to explain why you're refusing that data for that particular reason. Things such as automated decision making need to be managed well. You need to explain why you're using this information in that kind of way. There are regulations around cookies, the use of data, so e-privacy, and that's been brought in France and in Germany when it comes to the use of biometrics and other health-orientated data. So, and yes, and the last one here is the ICO, again, looking at cookies. So sometimes pop-ups block those kind of cookies, or the ability for people to see that they can remove themselves from cookies. So again, you as an organisation need to be aware of these elements and put things in place to address them, or at least recognise them and try to address them. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, other than to say, so as I said, Carrie's going to be looking through how this is managed within the LACS system, because all the information you store about claimants or witnesses, solicitors, all have an impact upon this regulation. Doesn't matter whether it's stored on premises or whether it's stored in the cloud, it's still your data. We're the processor, but you're the controller of that information, and you need to ensure that your database is compliant. Obviously, you can keep data if it's within that retention policy you've agreed, or if you think that data of this particular record is perhaps going to help with detecting fraudulent activity. But if you're challenged, you need to be able to explain why you've kept this information and be quite robust about that. Okay, so that's it from me. I'm going to hand across now to Carrie, who'll take you through how this is accomplished within the LACS tool.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Phil, for your introduction. I think firstly, I'm just going to say a little bit about myself, because I've worked with many of you before, but some of you may not have met me. So I've been working with JCAD for 6 years, well, nearly 6 years. I started in support in 2019, and then I moved over to implementations in October 2020, which is where we brought in Ollie to join us on support. And I've been working very closely with Ollie throughout the time that he's been with us. I think he's been with us for 4 years now. I've now moved into the client success manager role, and Ollie has moved into implementations. I like to think he's doing a little bit of work stalking. The great thing about working so closely with Ollie is that over the years we've got a great relationship together, and we can use that to help all of your projects move forward. I've only got a few projects left, so once I've completed those, I'll be hanging up my implementation shoes and passing it all over to Ollie. So that's enough about me. I'm going to share my screen now and talk you through the exciting process of GDPR. So hopefully you can all see my screen. I'm going to turn my camera off, and I will walk you through it. So there are two sort of pieces to how this works, and the first is that we need to go in as admin into LACS and set our criteria. So in the admin section, if we go to general settings and we scroll down to the GDPR section, we've got three pieces here to work on. So the first is the anonymization text. It's a free field. You can add in there what you would like to say once a claim has been anonymized. We've also got the GDPR minimum claimant age. A lot of people select it as 21, but it's entirely up to you what you want it to be. The minimum claimant age, it's the age that a minor is no longer classed as a minor, therefore their data can be cleansed. And we've also got the retention period as well. And that's calculated based from when the status was changed to closed. So I'm going to select it to 4 years, and I'll click on save. Okay, so that's all we need to do in the admin section. And then you need to log in to your LACHS account. And from here, we navigate to home. And if we go into activity, you can see here in my notifications that it's got all of the claims that are outside of the GDPR retention period that you've selected in the admin side. We can also do a find to check which claims need to be anonymised. So if you click on find, in here, this is what I made earlier. But if you were to go into add a field and scroll down to the GDPR section here, and we'd add in the field here. So if I'm just come out of here because I've got it over here, we'd add in the GDPR retention period exceeded, and we'd make it equal to and is yes. So these are all the claims here that are due to be anonymised or can be anonymised. So there's 2,782. I'm going to select this one up here. If we double click into the claim, we can see on the bar along the top in yellow, we can see that this is a claim that we consider anonymising. So if this is something that you would like to do, if we navigate to the tools section up the top, and then we go over to the anonymised record, click on here. This gives you your retention criteria, and then you have a selection that you can make of fields that can be anonymised. So I shall click on some. I'm going to make some changes down here, and I'll delete diary actions and documents. So click on save. That should then come up with it has not come up with anything, bear with me. It will then come up with a field that shows you all of your in detail what will be anonymised within the claim. So fortunately for me, LACHS seems to have crashed. So bear with me. Phil, if you'd like to fill.
Yes, well, absolutely. How's everyone's week going? Ours are going pretty well to this particular point. Don't worry, Gary, these things happen. It's your first session. Sod's law is that when you first do your first session, things will undoubtedly always go wrong. It's just part of the learning and growth experience. Yeah, you can just reboot and start again. Is it possible to make your screen a bit larger? Because I don't know, is that possible? What kind of resolution you've got? Because it's fairly
small.
Fairly small for me, but you know, I'm sort of partially sighted these days.
I'll bring it onto the other screen once I've got it working. Hang on.
Yeah, no worries. And as we're doing that, what Carrie's showing you is version 5, which has been around for quite a few years. We've now got version 6 having been released within the last few months. So we're starting to move people across to version 6, which is a true web solution, and that also incorporates this GDPR function. As we're moving people from 5 to 6, the very similar functionalities are going to be within both. So it's approached in a very similar way in terms of picking your criteria, applying that criteria, and then the database will automatically look for those records and then notify the claims handlers that particular record needs to be looked at. Often what we do prior to going live with a system or applying a retention criteria is we can do a process whereby we apply your criteria en masse, so that you might have an uncompliant database. We've done quite a few of these actually. You provide your kind of criteria, we then apply it to all your sort of 10,000 records, and then you'll lose a bunch of documents, and you'll have anonymized a whole range of those records that have reached that threshold. And from then onwards, the system will notify you, week on week, as 1 or 2 of these records then hit that threshold. So you're not having to do a manual anonymization of hundreds and hundreds. I wouldn't imagine. It's more on a kind of a weekly basis. You'll do one or two, and that will then keep that database compliant without too much problem. How are you doing there, Carrie?
Yeah, it's just
Just
I'm
booting
just
up.
doing the find again to get the data back up. I'll share on my other screen though, because I think that
Okay,
will
that's fine. Okay,
hopefully be better.
just wanted to make sure in case you were sharing and we couldn't see it.
Okay, is that better?
That I can actually see everything now. So thank you for that. I didn't want to stop you earlier on, which is why I pressed the.
You should have done it so we can see it.
I pressed the terminate working button, so you had to stop and then reopen it so I can see it. Thank you. You're all good. Keep going.
Right, I will. I'm going to find that one that I was working on. Okay, so here we are back again at find. So I'm going to navigate to this claim, and hopefully it will pop up on the right screen. Okay, let's try again. Thank you all for bearing with. Thanks for the filling, Phil. Right, okay, so we've gone to tools and we'll go to anonymize record, and we'll make the same selection that we made before. And I was going to delete diary record and the actions. Right, so we'll click on save. And this time it seems to have worked. That's great. I think my resolution, because I've moved, I can't bring it across. I do apologise. I think because I've changed screens and it's all to do with the resolution. But essentially, what happens is you get to preview your anonymised data, and this goes through everything within the claim that you have selected that will be anonymised. You then have a confirm your GDPR anonymisation. There's also a button on the other side that you can't see that says cancel. So if you're happy to go ahead with anonymising this claim, we click on confirm. And then it just gives you a review of the data you're about to anonymise. So I'm going to press the big red switch and say OK.
It's worth pointing out, I suppose, as well, that it's asking you to confirm, because once you've done this is you're not able to go back, are you? You can't reclaim with this data.
No, that's the end of the line. So we can see now that the ribbon has changed across the top to say it was anonymised by myself and the date and time. If I just go to home and I will just navigate between claims as like a refresh. So we now come back into this claim and you can see that the criteria has been anonymised. So with the location and the details, they now have the text that we wanted it to have. And if I move into the claimant, the name and the street has been anonymised too. If we go into the diaries and letters, they are no longer here either. I had purposely put a couple of documents in here, so they have gone. So that's how it works in LACS 5. I just want to add, to be able to run the GDPR functionality, you do need to be a supervisor or a high-level supervisor to be able to complete the task. So that's it done in a nutshell. As Phil dangled a carrot there about LACS 6, I'm also going to show you how this works in LACS 6 too. So I shall go into there. So I'm going to log in as myself.
Again, sorry, Kerry, if you don't mind me interjecting, it's worth mentioning that for those organisations that are making use of either version 5 in our kind of hybrid cloud environment or move to version 6, which is a web-based cloud environment, the storage of your data is something that does incur a small charge. So those organisations with a lot of documents going back many years will find the process of GDPR anonymization and document deletion is going to not only ensure their database is compliant, but it's also has the potential to reduce your annual cost as well, because we're not storing so much information for you. Carry on.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is the opening page and the task sort of the dashboard when you log into LACS 6. So we've got these arrows along the bottom. So if we click on these, it just expands the ribbon down the left-hand side. So in here, to find what can be anonymised, we'll go to the find functionality and we'll find a claim. And I'll just walk you through how you would do it. It's exactly the same as you would do it in version 5. It just looks a bit different. So we're going to change the filters and we'll select GDPR like we did earlier on, and the GDPR retention period exceeded. Click on OK. And then we'll do exactly the same as what we did, is equal to, and yes. Sorry, I've jumped ahead there because we need to do the bit in admin first. I've created my account as a high-level supervisor. So one of the nice new bits of functionality about version 6 is, as I have that level, I can nip over to administration without having to log out. So I'm going over to administration, and again we've got the arrows, and if I navigate to the general settings like we did in version 5 and scroll down to GDPR, and I've set the criteria to be the same as it was in version 5. If you make any changes, you just click on save and it will save that for you. But I've done everything I need to do in the admin side. So I want to go back into the front end. So I just click on here again and I whiz back over to the front end of LACHS 6, which takes me to here. So we'll go to the find again, find a claim, and I'll just pop through that again. So GDPR and retention period exceeded. Okay.
You could save that penalty, couldn't you? So you could rerun it whenever you want.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to do a search. And this is all of the claims that it's come up with in our demo database. So I shall select a policy at random.
That's already been anonymised.
Sorry?
That's already been anonymised, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Oh, yes. Good work, Phil. So we'll pick another one.
So the one you chose at random was the wrong one.
So we'll go here. Look at this. So it's similar to version 5. We've got the ribbon across the top. We now have two. So the top one is where we can click to go and anonymize the data. The one underneath is a new option if you wish for the file to be retained. So if you click this, it won't fall into the criteria. So if we can click here to anonymize, we can also go over to the additional actions and click on button down there, and we can click on the GDPR anonymize here. We've also got the option again to retain the file. So if we click on there, again, it's got your criteria up the top, and then you can select your fields that you wish to be anonymized. So I'll just click a few, and we'll do diary actions. So we shall preview. So this again is showing you all of the fields that will be anonymised in detail. There's quite a lot here. And if we click on save, that shows you that the claim has been anonymised. And again, it shows you the date and time and who by. And it also goes into the audit log. So that's how it works in version 6. And that's GDPR covered off for now. What I was also going to show you on a whistle-stop tour this morning was how to create a department. So I'm back into LACHS 5 now. I'll do it in LACHS 5 and then I will go through it in LACHS 6 as well. So in LACHS 5, I've finished all of my GDPR. All of my 2,000 claims have been anonymised. So I shall navigate towards configuration on the bottom left-hand side. And in here, sorry, it was organisations I was going to look at. So we'll go to the organisation section. And in here, I'm going to add a surveyor. So in order to add in a surveyor, if you click on the top tier where it's in bold and you click on new organisation, that up on the top left, this automatically knows that it's going to fall into the own surveyor. If you know the postcode and the details of the company, I'll just type in our address here and click on the search, and I'll select JC applications, and that automatically populates those fields for you. If you don't have that information, you can type it in manually as well. There's some fields here that you can add in as you wish with the details that you have. So if I type in a code and go up to the top left and click save. So that's saved my surveyor. I've also would like to add a contact in here too. So if I click on the add field and I shall add in someone here, I'm going to do a Phil and a Crawford. It's a mishmash of Phil and Tim. And I will save that. I've saved him, but I didn't actually put any more details in. So you can either double click on the name here, or we can go to edit. And it might be that you have an email address or a mobile number or that kind of thing that you would like to add in. So you can add that in too. If Phil Crawford were to leave JC Applications, never, you can also mark them as a former employee. It means that they won't come up as an option to select anymore. So that's how you add in an organisation and a contact in LACHS 5. And I will quickly pop over to LACHS 6 to show you in there too. And then I will leave you alone for the day. So in LACHS 6, it's taken me back to the claim that we've anonymised, but I want to go somewhere else. So we go to the top left and we click on the home button here, and that will bring you back to your dashboard that you logged in with. So I know that I need to navigate to data management and to organisations here. So again, it looks a very similar look and feel to how it was in LACHS 5. I may as well add in a known broker. I was surveyor, wasn't it, earlier? So if I click on the top tier again of own broker and go to new organisation, again, it knows where it needs to be. And we can look for the address lookup too. Okay. So it hasn't put the name up in there. I'm just going to add it in there manually. Again, any more information you have about the company, add in there in the fields. Oh, and I'm going to go over to the top right hand side and click on save because I'm happy with all the information that I have. So that's been saved. But again, I'd like to add in a contact. So we scroll down like we did in version 5, click on add, and I shall add in Phil again. Oops. Okay, I'm happy with that. I don't have any more details on Phil at the moment. I just know that that's his name. Again, we do have you can mark as a former employee if he was to leave. So we click on save, and you then have your contact in here. If you want to edit, you can go to the pencil here and you can add in more details. And again, if you wanted to make him a former employee, you can, and click on save. So that is how you create a new organisation within LACHS 6 and LACHS 5. And I think that's me done. So I shall pass you over back to Phil.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kerry.